Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, where I have to congratulate Mark, our CEO, as we approach the opening of our newest business venture, McDonald's.
Yeah, as you know, Dash, I'm happy to finally be able to introduce to the public and the masses the McDonald's chain, our all LCS fast food experience. But it's not quite ready yet. We still have some work to do on the menu. It's a little sparse, so I'm going to need ideas. I'm going to outsource it to all of you guys. I'm going to need some help. Alorum, kick me off.
All right. So right away, and you got to bear with me, we got the whole entire Dignitas meal, and what we do is we advertise that it's 6 spicy nuggets, but when you order it and it gets back to you, you get 10 spicy nuggets. That's more than you hoped for.
Oh, I kind of like that. I kind of like that. That's like an under-promise, over-deliver situation, right?
That's right.
And
That's
now that we have Dardock, we can include multiple toys. Like, people love collecting stuff, right? Like, maybe Kane gets repeated, but then you have to really, really dig to get that Karthus, you know? And everyone's going to want to collect every single one based on how many jungle champions he's playing.
I love buying Dignitas.
Yeah, trick them into keep coming back so that they have to get all of them. And then
I was gonna say,
you get Blue Kane.
Right. There's how many jungle champions in the pool, and what if, here's an idea, we just don't make one of the jungle champions into a figurine, but we advertise it anyway, so that you can never fulfill the collection. There's just the idea.
Mark for success right off the bat, you know?
It's the concept of running the gamut there, right?
We are not above false advertising in this industry, okay? So, know, if you have any other ideas like that, James, let me know, because I still need another menu.
All right, well, this one isn't so much false advertising, but I think there's a sector of the market that we're not really playing into right now, you know, and I think it's a shortcoming of calling maybe it a fast food chain, but here's my idea. It's called the TL meal, the Team Liquid meal. You got the Dutch Kobe beef. It's this new strain of Kobe beef coming right out of the Danish lands. Truffle mushrooms from Wales, of all places, a little gochujang. Help me out with that one, Emily. Gochujang spread from Korea. Some authentic Danish bread. It retails for $74.99. Is completely encrusted in 24-karat gold flake. What do you think?
Look at how happy Steve is, you know?
We got one customer. I know that.
Chef's
we got one customer.
It's beautiful.
I mean, I like it. We got to appeal to all of our fan bases, and you know, there's those people who don't care where the food's coming from. They don't care. They just want the highest quality food, highest quality ingredients they can get. This is a great cornerstone item. I'm gonna need some sides though. You know, this is a lot of meals. Some people want individual, you know, little finger foods, dollar menu stuff. I need an idea for that.
That's right. So now what I got coming up next for you, you're going to love, the people are going to love. It's called the Jizuke fries. And what it is sometimes you get it right out of the fryer. It's nice and crispy. You love it. And then other times it's been in there for an hour and a half. You're coming in right after the lunch rush ends. You get those soggy fries and it's just awful. So you just, you know, sometimes you get the best of all time. It's your favorite fries. And sometimes you just want to throw it right in the trash.
I mean, either way, you're going to tell your friends about it, right? Like, man, you know, sometimes they're really, really, really good. And then you just have to roll the dice.
There's a principle in design that you don't want to just leave people neutral with it, you know? So either make it the best is going to be or the worst. And some people love it and some people hate it. You know, you don't want apathy. And I think soggy fries that we're coin flipping when we take them out of the fryer is exactly what we need.
Oh my good, you know what? And I love the word coin flip, Mark. Here's what I'm thinking. It should literally be a mini game within the restaurant. Every 15 minutes, the fry cook has to flip a coin. Lands heads, you go ahead and throw the bat shot, you make a fresh one. Lands tails, you let them ride, baby. Just let them ride for the rest of the day and see what everybody gets.
Some of those bad boys are going to be frozen.
Jizuke fries will be a hot selling item.
All right, so I know, Mark, that most of this has been about new ideas, and it's great that we're adding new things to the menu. But you know, I know Primal also. He's out sick today. He wasn't able to make it to the board meeting, but he did shoot me an email, and he wanted to make sure that we touch on this, the CLG Sag meal, my friend. It's been a mainstay of the menu, but we know it's been a kind of a rocky and contentious part of the menu. What are we thinking here? How do we kind of rework this to really make it a new thing? Or at least
I mean, we already changed the mid lane meat patty, right? Like Pole Belter's coming in this week, so you know, like it'll keep that faith. I mean, we're pretty much out of faith sauce here, as you can see from this lovely graphic. But, you know, I think that could help maybe refill some of those bottles, or, you know.
No, you keep
Nah.
The thing about faith is you can't see it. You just have to believe it's there. And so, you know, we can just keep dumping on that faith sauce until you believe it tastes better and good enough that, you know, you still want to order this for the CLG fans.
I want these CLG fans to take this seemingly empty faith sauce. They need to put it upside down and bang on it until something comes out. It doesn't matter if there's nothing in there. I need to see tears coming out of their eyes. We need some more faith sauce, please. But
I think we found it. The answer.
I know.
The answer to the
It's not
CLG Satch
coming.
meal.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate all the suggestions you guys have for me, but I'm always looking for more, and I'm not above tapping the esports community and using them and repurposing fan content for free. So if any of you guys have any suggestions, feel free to shoot them our way. Any tasty ideas using the Twitter hashtag LCS.
Yeah, that's what we do best, repurposing community content for our own monetary gain. Game 1, though, is serving us up a David and Goliath matchup of Golden Guardians versus Cloud9. And for the development roster specifically, Mark, I do want to talk about how they can build on the win that they picked up just last week.
Yeah, actually, this is to transition to something serious all of a sudden. Really interesting.
Are you telling me that business meeting wasn't a serious endeavor,
No,
Mark?
not at all.
Okay.
The
Golden
most
Guardians.
serious business meeting I've ever attended.
I'm very happy to see them pick up their win last week, but I think a lot of people on Twitter and on the community were a little frustrated with how long it took to close out the win, and this is a very green roster, so I'm not mad or upset that, you know, they played a little safe, but I think when trying to reach the next level, finding the opportunities to slam the door closed when you have that chance should absolutely be jumped on, quite literally in this instance with a pretty much full health Tristana, able to get the resets. There are a number of low health members on the side of 100 Thieves there that they could have used the resets on to hop down that line. This was 36 minutes into the game. You know, it took another 20 minutes basically to end the game from here, but if they got that ace after the Drake Soul, they're pretty much in the clear. And I understand the mindset from newer players. Be like, okay, we got the Drake Soul. It's a bit of a sketchy situation. Let's reset. Let's go back to Baron and play it by the numbers. But the best teams and the best players know when the enemy has, you know, overextended, and they punish that. And I think that's one of the areas that while Golden Guardians is on this upward trajectory, they're improving week over week. That aggressiveness is one of the things I want to see them look for in team situations.
Piggybacking on that, I think you kind of said some of it, but I think it is good to call out that this is something that they can easily build on. So, like, while it was really frustrating to see them not take those opportunities over and over again, despite getting the win, I do think that this is something where you can have the foundation there to be like, hey, now we just need to be a little bit more aggressive. And that is hard because a lot of times you're just thinking in your head, okay, we need to like play by the rules, etc. But I don't think this is unsalvageable. And I think Golden Guardians in their more recent game, I really like their draft, which I talked about last week. But then B, I think you can look at this game, find some really easy fixes and build from there, which is always good if you're a coach looking at this lineup and how you performed.
Having been in somewhat of a similar scenario as GGS, where you are kind of like a snapped-in roster and you're just expected to go in and do your best, I know what it feels like for them where they're winning a game. I've been in this multiple times, actually, where you've been in a winning game and you make kind of a snap engage where you're just telling your team, go, 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 go. You go in, you engage, and it just ends up catastrophic. Like when I was playing, it was the 200 years of Phelios that got the best of us many times. And then that would happen, and we'd lose right after, and it's like, well, damn, maybe we just shouldn't have done that. So in their heads, and, you know, this is just my opinion, what they're thinking is like, okay, we've got our lead, so now they're going to build it up small steps. They're just a little win after little wins. And we see the better teams, they take little wins and bring it to really big gains for themselves. Mm-hmm. But when you're kind of a newer team, you don't want to take those enormous risks. And if you're confident in like your late game scaling, you can just take those small wins and eventually win the game, even if it's a little sloppy.
Well, I think that just speaks to the intensity of late-game moments and the overall tension that you can feel in those late-game moments where nobody necessarily wants to be the person to lose the game, to make that catastrophic mistake from a winning position, and sometimes that can result in inaction to some degree. But beyond that, and I'm sure you can attest to this as well, Alorum, I imagine late-game moments like that much harder to practice. We hear this all the time from pro players. Very rarely does a scrim end up in the scenario of a 50-plus minute game where you're securing a third or fourth Baron and fighting for an Elder Drake. And so for most of these guys, that could have very well been, the first, second, third time they've ever experienced something of that intensity. And so, of course, we'll look for them to continue building on that experience. They got their work cut out for them here today against Cloud9, and currently in first place. I do want to talk about the big ticket import. Again, it's Perkz. But what's the conclusion? Is he in form at this point, now 9 games in?
I mean, I think Perkz has been performing really, really well. I know a lot of people are joking, like, oh, just put him on 80 carries now, and he's great, right? He still gets to play mid, and then he's playing Tristan and Lucian. I think even in the Lucian game that they lost, he performed really well individually. And more importantly, I think Perkz' increase in performance from what we saw in lock-in tournament, not lockdown, is a benefit of C9 also just communicating a lot better. So where previously we were like, how is he going to get along with Blabber? How is he going to get along with the rest of the team? I think Perkz is always a player who, again, as the team communication improves, he is going to look significantly better, not only because he's a very strong individual player, but because he does have a really strong voice on a team and he understands the game very well.
I mean, outside of that, Mark, we've kind of seen a small shift in play style, it seems, for Cloud9 in moving away from carries in the top lane for Fudge and indexing a little bit more towards playing through the more consistent bot lane, particularly, Sven as an AD carry. Do you think that that's a sustainable approach, though? Because we've talked about this plenty, is, being one-track minded in your style, not being able to play to the top side. Is that something you'd be concerned with? Do they need to keep trying?
I mean, I think they don't need to abandon it, and I don't think they have. We talked about this on the dive earlier this week, and we compared them to being like the Power Rangers right now. Like, everyone on C9 is playing pretty well, and at different moments, they're all going to get the spotlight on them. They're going to get the final hit. And so there's definitely moments where it's like, okay, Sven's the guy, Blabber's the guy, Perkz is the guy, and Fudge has had a couple of those on those kind of games where people in week 1 were doing that Ignite Camille thing. It showed that you can play through him. I don't think that has to be your first option. He can be the Blue Ranger, but he is still someone you can play through.
One thing I want to bring up is something that Alarum touched upon in the very beginning of this countdown, is that Blabber on this patch is going to be a really interesting jungler to watch, right? Because he was already playing the Rek'Sai previously and even earned a ban for it. So if we are going to see any shift in the more like gank-heavy CC junglers, I actually expected to see Blabber more than other junglers in the region.
I mean, yeah, that as well as possibly the Elise that I heard, dropped in that earlier discussion as well. Will be very exciting to track him, particularly as one of the more aggressive junglers. So let's wrap things up with some predictions. I'm hoping that you guys differ a little bit here as we start the rematches. That's the exciting thing about the second round robin, is that all of these are now rematches. And hey, looking at that second game of the day, we got the TSM vote for Alorum, while there's faith from the other two in the Team Liquid comeback. But Alorum, you're taking the favorite by score line in TSM. What's your reasoning there?
Well, besides you said the word faith, and I have faith in TSM right now, which I know I've been doing bad on before. I remember in lock-in I had faith in TSM and it came back to bite me. But they have been on this kind of upswing, and I know TL has all these superstars and they're a pretty consistently good team, but they just don't have I don't know what to call it, the oomph factor that TSM has right now. I feel like they are on such a big morale, and like the entire team is feeling real good that they could continue this upswing and this momentum leading into this match. TSM has my faith right now.
I gotta say, I agree with Alorum in a lot of ways. Like, I respect him for picking the TSM here thing, because I expect a lot of people would be like, Emily and I picked TL because we're just like holding on to the past, Yeah. Alorum's an early adopter, and I respect that, but I couldn't get over it. I was like, no, TL should be so much better than they are, and I'm just holding out till they finally actually show their true potential. But we haven't seen it in a while now, and TSM has had a pretty good couple of weeks, so I wanted to go with it, but I couldn't get over what my head was telling me.
Yeah, I want to bring this to Emily, though, because I remember, Emily, you were the one who was kind of looking at what preseason tournaments, had some data by looking at, champions and looking over in the LPL Demacia Cup. Do you feel like we're reading too much into the lock-in champions Team Liquid here now?
No, I mean, I I actually think that I said this last week too, but like I'm not super concerned about TL. I think they're still going to end up as a finalist, if not like a victor, but definitely as like a finalist in this split. The big thing about TL for me that I wanted to say, and the reason why I bet on them here, outside of the fact that usually when I bet on TSM I lose, is that I like curse them, is that I think that when you look at TL's games, it comes down to, outside of some draft stuff, like 1 or 2 plays that could have gone differently. And so I think that's something that's really easy to, it should be really easy to fix with this lineup. And we've already seen them work really well together. And we've even in their last game already seen them address some of the problems that they had, right? Like I talked about how they were really unable to convert a lot of those advantages topside. And we saw them, you know, go bot and exert pressure over the map that way in their last game. So I think that's what I'm looking for and why I am picking TL in this matchup. But I do agree that like I'm not going to be shocked if TSM when they're also looking really good.
Split decision when it comes to game 2 from my analysts here. But for now, we're going to hand it over to Pastry and Azael for game 1. As we go, let's get a quick word of sage advice from the literal world champion himself.
And now, it's time for sage advice from a literal world champion.
Need 50 gold to complete your item? No problem. Don't worry about it. Just go last at the Nexus.
This has been sage advice from a literal world champion.
Well, that's pretty good advice there, if I do say so myself. My name is
Thank you,
Julian
yeah.
Pastry Time Coy, and joining me is indeed the literal world champion himself. It is Azael. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, man. Strive to be really accurate, thoughtful with the advice that I give. So hopefully succeeding on all counts.
It is worth 50 gold, so that is absolutely the case here as we line up for our first game here. And now, if you're familiar with the game of poker at all, you may know the hand Deuce 7, Deuce, of course, being slang forward 2. And that is actually the record for both of these teams if you invert it on the GG side. But the good thing about poker is that the hand is worth the same no matter the order it is in. So it is first versus definitely not first as Golden Guardians look to topple a Titan here in Cloud9.
Would be pretty exciting, but I feel like there was also some flame there because that's like the worst hand you can get.
It is the worst hand.
Yeah, especially if it's off suit, and Golden Guardians is definitely not looking like they have a pair of aces right now. You know, they are that development roster. They've been working on the improvement. So for me, every time I watch this team, I am looking for that gradual improvement. I'm looking to see if they're getting better week over week. That to me is the metric for success. Of course, it would be incredible if they could overcome Cloud9, but I'm not expecting that realistically. You know, what I'm watching Niles and Iconic this week, what I want to see is, can Iconic be more adaptable in his playstyle? Because we know he can play a farm-heavy style. We know he can, scale towards late game and try to team fight. But I want to see, can he play for early? Can he actually play towards lane win conditions? If Niles is going to go for a counter pick or Blaze Alva is going to go for a counter pick, can we see a gank-heavy game from Iconic? Because so far he has been very focused on farm, and that playstyle has been nerfed pretty heavily in 11.4. So we'll see if he's going to mix things up at all. But already some big picks coming through. Rel feels like pretty much the top of the support table right now, and Vulcan going to be able to grab it.
Yeah, not a massive amount of changes so far in the bans though. Camille, Lilia, GP, Olaf, Thresh, and Udyr are the first 6. So Udyr's still getting banned on that red side. Still a lot of the champions we've seen quite a bit of. But we, as you mentioned, we have changed patch. At least this is a consideration. But certainly Jinx is a big one as well. So first pick Jinx here for Stixxay. Certainly the kind of champion he likes to play on.
Yeah, no kidding. This is going to be pretty exciting. Jinx did receive some pretty significant buffs on 11.4, gained a lot of base HP. Also, as a result, the play rate in solo queue has like doubled, right? We're seeing this all the time in high-level solo queue and Challenger. It just got played in LEC as well. I do think it's quite a powerful pick. It's harder to actually abuse in the laning phase as a result of having higher health, harder to all-in as well. We know the team fighting is incredibly strong. The question is, will they be able to try to punish it? Does Cloud9 want to go for any sort of aggressive AD pairing alongside the Rel to try to go at Stixxay? Or do they want to go for something like the Kai'Sa to try to scale alongside it?
All right, well, Gragas, the other pick there. Could be top lane, could be jungle. We'll see where that goes. There's also Hecarim still for Blabbers, so not getting off the farming jungler this time around, but certainly, even if the gains are a little bit slower, and they are, that's not an understatement at all, Cloud9 are the type of team that can kind of play around anyone, and if they feel like continuing to play around Blabber, who is playing very well, why not pick something like Hecarim?
Yeah, Hecarim's great. I mean, Hecarim is that hard engage, does pair well with the Kai'Sa, so we kind of get that answer. Yes, there is potential of looking for all-ins in lane when you are playing with Kai'Sa, but generally speaking, it is more about the team fight, more about the later stages of the game. We have two forms of hard engage. We have backline dive, not only with the Hecarim and Rel, but also with the follow-up there from the Kai'Sa. It can pair well with semi-global and global champions, so you now have to be worried on the Golden Guardian side about things like the Galio, about things like the Twisted Fate potentially. So I do think it's fairly flexible. First couple picks here. With Skarner coming through, this is interesting. Bringing the lockdown here for Iconic, so less that farm heavy style, but this is a champion you can build full tank. You do have incredibly quick clearing as long as you're controlling the spires in your jungle. The engage option is pretty powerful there as well. And there's always that QSS tax, and this is something that I do like to see, being able to force the divergence in build paths, especially if your team comp is more physical damage heavy, then you don't get nearly as much value out of just the MR on something like a QSS.
Makes sense there, and I think pretty much confirms that Gragas is going to be top lane, although there certainly are options there. Newbie, for example, could play it. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons Gragas is so powerful is that he is so flexible. But we'll see what happens. It does feel like a quieter top and jungle, if that is the case for Golden Guardians, where perhaps they're going to be relying more on 6A's Jinx, perhaps relying more on a Blaze Olive, who did have a pretty good game on the Trist. Even though Golden Guardians wins have been very long, that is not like the only moment of success they've had since the lock-in tournament. So I think be curious to see how they look here. Certainly lining up for a slower game, but that also could just be a patch trend here, as we're expecting 11.4 to most likely elongate games a little bit.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if that actually does, become a reality. I think some people have a bit of diverging views on this. Are we going to see more of a slower scaling style? Are, early game junglers going to come into the fold and try to push the pace of things a little bit? Will be interesting, but thus far, some attention to the globals, the TF getting taken off the table, so Cloud9 would still have the opportunity to go towards a Galio if they did want to do so. Of course, there is the concern of Lulu being paired up with Jinx there, so that will be banned away. When you have things like Jinx coming back into the meta, enchanters just naturally become more popular because you have such a powerful late game carry. As long as you can protect this champion with something like a Lulu, a Janna, even sometimes the Karma can be fairly effective. Not only the additional move speed, but that shielding allows these champions to really just take over and completely dominate team fights at times.
Well, Aurelia and Lulu. Aurelia, I guess the other band there on the Cloud9 side. Syndra going to be the pickup there for a Blaze Olive, so going to give Perkz the opportunity to counter pick, but Syndra pretty safe blind pick, especially these days. Mid lane is so many different control mage battles. Azir is still a man, so it could just be the pick Perkz wants to go to, but Syndra does have some play there. And speak of the Karma, and she perhaps shall appear. Cloud9 at least going to consider it here.
Would be interesting. Could go mid or top potentially here. I don't think we're going to see Rel flexed anywhere else, so this is very likely a solo lane pick. Azir getting locked in means that it is going to be top lane Karma, so I think that they are assuming that this is going to be the Gragas that he's laning up against, and it will in fact be that Gragas, so it is going to be the other enchanter that I did kind of mention earlier here, Janna getting locked in. And I do think Janna's actually really, really strong, especially against Rel. The W from Rel is fairly delayed. You have quite a bit of time to actually react with the ultimate to knock her out, or even the tornado there to interrupt that crash down. The peel for the Jinx, of course, is incredibly important, and this does feel very much like front to back. You have Gragas as well as that Skarner for the engage, so it's okay to have Janna. You don't need to have engage in all the roles here. Both teams actually bringing the enchanter to the table, just having them in those different lanes. So pretty interesting stuff over on the Golden Guardians, but also on the side of Cloud9, they have the ability to dive deep, with a lot of the engage here. The Hecarim, the Azir, the Kai'Sa can even follow up there, and bringing this Karma to the top lane means that they're equally going to have protection for their late game carry. My only real question is what kind of build is Fudge going to go to? In solo queue, a lot of time when you see Karma top, it's actually Grasp tank Karma, which adds so much less value to the team fighting come, that stage of the game. So, I think I would actually prefer to see more just kind of the airy style, build towards the Moonstone, build towards that supportive style, because Gragas is not a split push champion. Gragas is not about the 1v1. So I think that Fudge can survive the laning phase with a more supportive style build, and then really help to enable, this Azir and this Kai'Sa when it comes to 5v5.
I mean, you have to think so. It feels like Gragas is mostly getting picked because, Gragas doesn't really lose to anything. So in that case, I feel like that kind of opens the floodgates for Karma to go pretty heavy on the support. And indeed, your wish may indeed be granted, as it is airy already for Fudge as the keystone. Other than that, though, no real surprises. Conqueror Jinx, I guess, may be somewhat surprising if you haven't seen Jinx in a while, but makes sense again. And I think if this is the preview for 11.4, what I said earlier may already be coming true, because this certainly is a much more 5v5 oriented, we're okay if the game goes longer, style of draft from both these teams.
It is. It definitely is. So we'll see exactly how it is going to pan out. You know, you mentioned the area. I do think that that is likely going to mean that it is just at least AP, even if he doesn't go for, you know, support item first. It's going to be more of that team fight style of build rather than just building towards tank, I think, when you see the Aerie. One thing that is a little bit surprising is that it is actually lethal tempo on the Azir. Generally speaking, when you do have the range matchups, you see Comet or you see Electrocute actually being grabbed there. In this case, this is much more about scaling towards the later stages. So Perkz is forgoing the more powerful laning rune and actually setting himself up to deal with what is going to be a pretty big front line of the Gragas as well as this Skarner, knowing they could be shielded up, they could be difficult to take down. He's really, you know, spending his power to build towards taking them out later.
Yeah, well, same side start here for both junglers, but Blabber's not going to get any help, and Niles will indeed be helping Iconic, so Fudge will get first to the wave. Bottom side, though, actually where we should be paying at least the early attention, because the race to level 2 is so important here, is that ward, I believe, yep, did get taken out by Newbie.
Yeah, both supports actually on a sweeper start, so that's really showing how much they want to emphasize controlling the brush. And, you know, that is because you can sweep out that ward. Both marksmen are playing with a warding totem. Both of the supports are playing on the sweeper. You want to have that ward in the brush to have control of that so that the enemy support can't just, you know, dip into fog and be able to poke away for free or be able to have engage out of fog as Vulcan is looking to do. So that is why they are going for that sweeper early on. It can be pretty effective.
Going in level 2 for both here, but already Vulcan starting off the fight. Sticks, they're getting low to get themselves out of there, and Vulcan dismounted, but not really much trade damage there. Nice start for the Cloud9 duo.
Yeah, that was really well done by them. Both teams were trying to race towards level 2, but Golden Guardians got it second, and as a result, you know, Vulcan goes in for the very quick engage. Newbie was late on his tornado. He was not in time to actually interrupt the W. You know, as I was talking about, that W knockup did land. He was actually able to combo that with his E-stun right after, so that is why they won that trade pretty heavily. Stixxay was just straight up locked down, so Golden Guardians either needed to react better to the engage or just accept the fact that they were going to lose the race to level 2 and back it up a little bit.
Right, well, Iconic on the blue buff now. It's actually flown through top half of the jungle decently there. Even going to early smite the Krog's going to go for double stuns. They're very efficient use of Skarner's tools there to jungle, but Blabber going to be down here to that bottom side, takes that shrine, and now going to look for the invade or the crab.
Okay, for a second I thought he was just going to walk in, and since Iconic did early smite, there was a potential for him just walk in and smite away that blue buff. Of course, he wouldn't have had the information that that was going on. He does now know that bottom side scuttle was taken, but because of his location on the map, there's no way he's really going to be able to get up to the top side scuttle to actually take that. Fudge has full lane priority up here against Niles. He had him under the turret, so this does mean Blabber is going to get a 5-camp clear into double scuttle. He can then go down to the Krugs on the bottom side and farm that up after. But because Iconic did the 6-camp clear at least, you know, he didn't contest heavily for the scuttle, so he's not going to be as far behind. Oh,
good stun there for Blaze Olive, actually. Gets a bit of damage onto Perkz, but running out of mana on the Syndra side. So I imagine we'll see some TPs relatively soon as both mid lane mages are using that mana pool. Blabber, though, already going to go back after getting 2 crabs, which is great, and has that Sheen already finished up. So well on the way. Again, despite those changes to the small camps, Scuttle Crab still maintains its greatness as a jungle camp, and junglers were happy to get 2 crabs before, going to be even happier now after those changes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's worth even more proportionally compared to the rest of those camps. It is a lot of gold. You know, we did see the analyst desk going over some of the changes. Of course, the gold values are flat. The experience difference is not as much in the early game as it is in the late game now. So you can expect some of these, you know, heavily farming junglers to not be keeping up with solo laners later on. In the early stages, doesn't make a huge difference. You can still get level 3 off of one side of the map. You know, you can still get to that level 4 on a full camp clear. So it's not that big of a deal in the earlier stages, and more going to affect the players that are just power farming the whole time.
All right, well, bottom side still pretty even on farm, but Sven feeling good as Longsword's battle here in the bottom side. Early shield there for Newbie. This Stixxay looks to line up them rockets, but again, despite this kind of thing, great interrupt there for Newbie this time, although actually doesn't quite grab it. Now the exhaust going to be forced out onto Sven, but Vulcan at least did commit the ignite, so Newbie low but not dead. First blood still on the table for both of these teams.
I mean, this is one of these champions that people always like to kind of make fun of, you know, Janna and so, like Sona and all these type of champions. It's like, aha, it's so easy. But back-to-back times, Newbie has actually failed the Tornado interaction. That's why he picked this, is to be able to actually disengage the engages from Rel. And, he's 0 for 2 now on doing that, and now has no flash. So,
oh, what a stun! Vulcan just barely found it. Now Blabber zooming down to the bottom side. It's Stixxay going to be given first blood over to Sven.
Nicely done there by Cloud9. They force out the summoners off of Newbie early, and Stixxay, as soon as they get behind him, he's not even going to bother using the flash. There was no chance of him surviving there. And bad goes to worse as he not only misses that farm, first blood goes to Sven, who's going to be very far ahead here. So we've got to see this Golden Guardians bottom lane playing a little bit better. It felt like perhaps they got baited a bit into a false sense of security because Iconic was pathing down, and now Blaze Olive out of mana.
Yep, it does have flash. Oh, that stun somehow still clipped him, but no one under the tower can follow, so Blaze Olive is going to live and hold on to his flash. Very bold to not have to use it there, but does escape under his tier 2 tower.
Yeah, nice calm play from him. He will miss out on some of these minions, but he does have teleport, so it's not that bad. Here we can see this one more time. The dismounted engage on Rel is something that I think is actually quite underrated. As Blabber comes in here with the Ghost E, he is incredibly fast. When you actually dismount, you can use the remount, and you get a bunch of move speed towards your opponents. You flip them over your shoulder. So as soon as that actually happens to Stixxay, there's no way he was going to be able to flash away from and get out of range of that knockback that was coming in from Blabber. So I think the right decision to actually just accept his death and not use the flash, but a great early play here from Cloud9, and to follow that up with more mid lane pressure. Despite the fact they didn't get the kill, it's still valuable. They force out the teleport, they deny a couple minions, and it was a pretty low-risk play. So just good early minutes of the game here from Cloud9.
Certainly so. As a result of the mid lane scuffle, though, both have now committed their teleport. Blaze Olive is going to scoop up this wave and even up the CS. So Perk's just going to waddle over and collect the blue buff as things will relax just a little here. But it is nice to see that Cloud9 maybe altering some of their style, but not all of it. Still playing a similar kind of pace. Again, Blabber not content to just farm through the jungle on Hecarim, which, to be perfectly honest, you shouldn't be just doing anyway. But continuing to play aggressive and look for angles, even without his ultimate in that case in bottom side. So it is nice to see that, despite perhaps the shift in metagame that we are witnessing, nice stun again from Blaze Olive. Does get the damage on the Perks, but can't follow up. Despite that shift, Cloud9 aren't really changing much of how they want to approach the game, even if the champions and compositions are different.
Yeah, they're going to look to be aggressive, right? You bring in the Janna. Vulcan's not just going to give you a free pass that you're going to be able to interrupt all these engages. He's going to try to test you. And so far, Golden Guardians has been found wanting in that regard. Blabber getting the pre-6 ganks off on the Hecarim is going to feel really nice anytime you can do that. Iconic looking for the invade here. They both do have smite, though.
Ooh, this is going to be a fun one. Gets the stun, gets the suppress. Smite out as well. There's the follow-up from a Blaze Olive, and that's a freebie as Iconic serves up a kill for a Blaze Olive.
Nicely done, and not only did they get the kill, but he actually gets the gold off the red buff as well. Yes, if Blabber took that red buff, he would have gotten the red buff from him, but getting the gold, getting the experience, getting the kill is really, really nice, and Blabber just not expecting that, had this smite available, but of course didn't know that the invade was going on. A Blaze Olive on the roam there, just not enough vision from Cloud9 in the area, and they pick up an easy kill. They get the dragon off of this. This is just really good stuff here, from Golden Guardians. I also like that Iconic didn't just immediately smite. He waits a little bit, he hits the E there, then pulls the ultimate, and that's something that Captain Flowers always likes to talk about. If you land the E and then you ult, you have that follow-up stun immediately coming out of the ult, and so even if they were to try to escape, they don't really have any opportunity to do so.
Yep, no flash, of course, for Blabber, just Ghost, but didn't have a chance to ult out anyway, so very nicely played for Golden Guardians, who also got the Ocean Drake off the result of that play. Iconic with a very efficient segue with the Blast Plant to be able to take that objective off, as well as a recall cancel will be attempted by Sven, but he just barely misses Stixxay, who's now going back with that nuke of a Perks up into a Blaze Olive. Now going to have to hold, but just walks towards the wall, threatens to flash away, and walks on out of there.
Yeah, Perks was trying to just get in range for that attract repel, the rel stun there. You don't actually have to be on the other side of them with the tether beam. There is like a pretty big circle around the person that you're tethered to, so you can actually stun people in front of you, and he was about a step out of range of that, and had he got that, he could have used the ultimate to follow up after. Didn't want to commit his own ultimate or flash, immediately before that landed, because they just, again, had no vision on this side of the map. One pink ward does get cleared out, but Golden Guardians prior to that had 4 pink wards down in this bottom river area, so obviously Perks and Vulcan were not sure if someone was going to be coming in behind a Blaze Olive, and again, he's able to just play it pretty calm, collected, and survive the pressure.
Yeah, certainly been looking more comfortable. And again, he did talk about that in their very long win when he was playing Trist. I know there was some wanted criticism of that he wasn't playing aggressively enough given the position he was in that game, but did cite some nerves there because, again, this is still a very new team. So perhaps feeling a bit more confident, which is impressive even against the likes of Perks, who is extremely responsible, by the way, already before finishing a Mythic or a Legendary. Has a QSS already done.
Yeah, that's always so frustrating as a Skarner player or Malzahar player or really any of those to see that early QSS. It's like, well, guess I'm not using it on him. It's also a lot of value. You know, I talked about how it's great to force out the QSS tax, especially if it's a physical matchup. As
Ooh, tries to hurt him towards Vulcan. Actually, I think it's going to work. Good flash, but there's the ulti over the top, and Perks is going to get the kill in the end.
third time is the charm there. Cloud9 again going to mid lane. This time they get the kill and the flash, and they have a Herald to actually drop behind this. So despite the fact that Ablaze Olive has done a great job withstanding this pressure, he's going to lose his life. He's going to lose his summoner, be a lot more vulnerable to any potential follow-up ganks there. And that is pretty rough here. You know, again, playing down towards that bottom side, but this time Rel and Hecarim are coming in behind him. Perks just kind of shepherds him in towards Vulcan. And you notice that Blabber knew the flash was available, so he holds the ultimate until after the flash is expended, follows him over the wall, and does kill him off. Very nicely done. But the QSS is just going to be a lot of value against the Syndra as well, right? Because Syndra is a burst champion. You can, of course, use the QSS on the Scout of the Week, but even just that MR is going to help you not get 100 to 0'd. It's going to eliminate the flat spell pun on the Sork Boots and more. So it's going to be a great early value buy here for Perks.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen a lot of Verdant Barrier, of course, as finally a stun misses on camera for Ablaze Olive. And Perks is looking for those plates, but just barely, I think, one auto away from grabbing it there.
A very greedy boy, just tanking up in multiple turret shots. Does make you a little bit nervous. If he stayed for maybe one more turret shot, could have been bad, but he's going to be able to use that refillable, just continue to push in, and wants the pressure for these plates. He has a minute and a half to collect it, so I do expect him to grab at least one more plate before we hit that 14-minute mark. But Cloud9 trying to fight back for a little bit of vision down on this bottom side. Rel has been constantly moving over towards that mid lane. The downside of that is there's...
Good ult? Not enough.
No, not quite enough. Oh, 6A ultimate, will it hit?
Is this enough? We're going to find out together! Oh, he hits it 6A! Takes down Perks!
Oh my god, what a shot. The Observer smurfing it there. Tracking that rocket cross map to grab a kill. Nicely done by Stixay. And, Rel has been out of lane so much that it has allowed him to farm fairly effectively. He is down on farm, of course. He did get killed off early, but they have not been able to really, extend that lead massively. And now he gets a little bit of kill gold in his pocket here, so they're going to be feeling pretty good about that.
Absolutely. Picks it up, has it nuke quiver, Zerka goes ready to go. Turret plating almost off, 30 seconds until that one's fallen off. And Cloud9 have been playing pretty well, but Golden Guardians, I think, holding them nicely here in this early game. Yes, Cloud9 are up, 800 gold, but it's not really too much in the early side, and they do have the first dragon as well. Continued battles here in mid, though, have been kind of the big point of pressure, as Golden Guardians finally going to try and get the jump on somebody else in the mid lane rather than the other way around, because Vulcan has just been so active in that part of the map.
Yeah, they want to continue stacking these dragons, but Cloud9 are building for the 5v5. You can see that the Moonstone's already done here for Fudge, so he's pretty much ready to go. He is actually roaming down. Niles is not moving, so this will just be a dragon given over, and we can see if they're going to be working towards the Infernal or the Mountain Soul. Will be Mountain on the table here.
Flash for Stixay, forced to get out of there as Vulcan once again threatening. Had the ulti actually ticking away, so popped in with Crash down to try and get it done. But Stixay does flash it, which is a nice work from him. Is iconic, looking to chase Perks, but doesn't land the E. So no slow, which means no fun, as he at least collects 15 gold from the Spire and this Control Ward.
Yeah, you can see he has the Chem Tank done, as does Niles. So pretty big emphasis on the engage with their double tanks up in that top side of the map, building towards that for their mythic item. And it is going to give them, a lot of ability to try to pick off some of these members. They're going to have to be on point with their engages, I do think, to be able to catch either Perks or Sven. Those do feel like really the two that you are going for here. If you're not able to actually lock them down with that initial engage, I do think it's going to be pretty difficult for Golden Guardians to be able to survive with the amount of damage that's over on the side of Cloud9. The super powered support up in that top lane with that Karma. I think you could even just go towards the second item. Ardent Sensor here is very effective for both the Kai'Sa and the Azir. You don't have to just default to that Staff of Flowing Water, so we'll see where he does want to go.
I have to say, though, for how well BlazeOlive is navigating here against Perks, I feel like every single time I see him land a stun in lane, I check see if he has ulti. This time he had it. It's like, oh, maybe he'll go in. And then I see Vulcan on my left-hand side of the screen. Like, he is always there. Every time I think Syndra has an opening, Vulcan has just been such a pest in the mid lane. And, you know, what Newbie's trying to match the roams, but, like, it's the Janna. What are you going to do as Blabber looks to dive Stixxay? This just feels unfair. Right under the tower, in goes Ven. See you later, Stixxay, as Ven's going to claim it. But a BlazeOlive looking for the trade kill. Iconic finds the suppression. Under the tower they go. Niles is there as well. Bops him away from the team as Iconic will take down Sven in trade.
Nice teleports and a good trade kill picked up there, taking down Sven, but he does grab the kill on Stixxay, and it's unfortunate that it is actually the Skarner grabbing the kill here for Golden Guardian. So all things considered, still a nice play from Cloud9. They're the ones making that proactive move and going to be able to get more out of it. Also looks like they should be able to grab this second Rift Herald for themselves, but Golden Guardians are moving in here. Potential is there to threaten a fight, but you can see Perks is actually just killing the mid lane tower right now.
Yeah, this is a 4v3 now, but it would have been a 4v4 if Perks came over. Instead, C9 decided they'll take mid instead, and Golden Guardians actually will collect the Herald as a result, so thanks for the leash. Iconic going to go ahead and grab the Eye, and maybe going to look to drop it quickly here, try and get a tower trade. Instead, it is just going to be that empowered recall back for Iconic, as Stixxay is left to clean up things in mid.
When you lose a tower for a Herald, though, it's not really worthwhile, right? You know, the Herald, on average, is worth like half a tower or 40% of a tower. We can see this one more time. The ulti Fear into the E knockback. That applies Plasma, so Sven then can follow up. But Iconic up here, Niles TPing in, and he is just fully locked down. The Skarner ultimate into the E-stun, into the belly bop. The ultimate coming through from Gragas as well, so no real chance for Sven to get out of there. But he didn't expend any summoners, so the death is really not that costly for him. And Perks now, in addition to that QSS, does have his mythic item completed. He's got the tier 2 boots. So both the carries here from Cloud9 looking really strong at this point.
Yeah, it's actually Leandries versus and Sorgs for both the mids right now. But as you said, Gale Force also done for Sven, so feeling pretty good. Cracket Slayer, though, online for Stixxay, so everyone's kind of in the right place. But it is Cloud9 that are up almost 2,000 gold. And after splitting those first two dragons, you have to feel that that is starting to build into a lead that could become a lot more come this mid game, depending on how the teams want to navigate. But Niles, who was down to that bottom side, is going to roam in and clear out some vision, because perhaps they want to look for this dragon in 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Yeah, it does feel like they want to play pretty heavily around those dragons. I think, you know, with the double tanks, you know, with a pretty heavy emphasis on the engage, the 5v5 themselves, Golden Guardians feel that they need to be successful in that area. Sven up here to match the push, though, wants to get those waves going in the right direction here. Would have to be recalling, you know, or heading down towards that bot side fairly quick. Will be interesting to see where he wants to go. You know, Collector is kind of the default, but as enchanters do become more popular, Serpent's Fang is actually becoming more and more valuable. The bonus damage onto shielded targets against people like Janna, and even that W shield from Skarner can be pretty nice.
Ooh, Niles, 1v4, going to kick things off on the Fudge. Iconic gets the ulti there, but there's other collapses as Vulcan gets the ulti down, and somehow Niles is going to live for a bit longer, but still going to fall at the end of it all as Ven now chasing onto Iconic, looking for that second kill. But Golden Guardians do at least get their Skarner out of there. Now Vulcan looking for the re-engagement. The Q lands this time as the BlazeOlive forced to flash out. Perks are going to get interrupted by Newbie's Janna ulti, but a BlazeOlive still dies at the end of it as Perks. He flashes away from Stixxay's rocket.
I just don't even understand the engage that Niles and Iconic are going for. I mean, it's like a nice flank pulled off. If the rest of your team is there, that would have been a great fight. But they were engaging with 3 of their members still very, very far away. So they went in, they pull off this great flank, but where is the damage? You have a tank Skarner, a tank Gragas here. You know, they do go in, they use their full combo, both ultimates committed, but there's no follow-up. There's no damage that's even anywhere near them. They really need to be more patient on that. When Newbie, Stixxay, and a BlazeOlive are all not in position, you've got to back off. You've got to have the patience to wait for them to get there. And unfortunately for them, they do not. It cost them multiple kills. They almost trade one back and do force out the QSS and flash from Perks, which is something, but again, it's another lost fight. It's another dragon going the way of Cloud9. It just felt like a bit of an itchy trigger finger there from Niles and Iconic, not waiting for their team to be ready for the engage.
Yeah, just not on the same page. As Golden Guardians going to be unhappy to lose that one. Almost 4,000 gold down as a result. Collector is now finished for Zen, so answering at least that question, but do agree that I'm expecting more Serpent's Fang in the future. The passive, if I recall correctly, is literally called Shield Breaker. Seems pretty good up against a bunch of shields. But C9 just kind of chilling out. I mean, QSS now done for Blabber, so he can go for broke in any sort of fight, which is, let me tell you, something Blabber loves to do.
Yeah, he's just going to be having, more of an ability to play aggressive. As you're saying, that's exactly what he does want. Rift Herald will get dropped, but it's so far away, you feel like Cloud9 should be able to move members over and actually respond to this if they do choose to do that. But, the items coming through pretty quickly now for Cloud9. The gold lead is really starting to show itself as the second completed item is there for Sven. It's not for 6A. Obviously, cheaper item build up in that top lane, but, C9 is just so much stronger.
Vulcan going again, though. Good ulti from Nubia to disengage. Here comes Blabber for the re-engage, and that's the ulti under Blabber, but that moves Iconic into the enemy team as Blabber just going to take him out.
Nicely done, and now it's straight over to Baron. It's 21 minutes, but the jungler is down. They have a lot of shielding here. They still have the potential to turn for some sort of an engage if they do want to do it, and they're just going to force Golden Guardians to try to come to them and take the fight. It feels like if you give up this Baron this early on, the game is all but sealed. We'll see if they can do anything about it.
All right, Niles in the front. I blaze all around the back. They've got a ward in the pit as well. Niles going in, going to dunk Sven into himself, but there's no one there again to follow up. They're just going to try and steal, but the smite comes through for Blabber. Now Niles going to get assaulted as Perks looks for the flank around the back. Niles looking to get low and does indeed die as Sven dives into the front of the fight, and Stixay is going to be left for dead. And Golden Guardians lose everything there. 3 kills to Cloud9, if I count correctly, and that Baron as well.
Yeah, that is just so huge, and now they're going to be able to pick up even more gold. Perks TPing down in the bottom lane to grab that outer tier 1. Blaze Olive, he was just trying to go for the steal here over the wall. Niles is in the pit trying to be disruptive, but they do not have quite enough damage. You can see they tried to combo the Jinx ulti with that damage coming through there from the Syndra, but the Jinx ulti actually has to hit a player to be able to get the splash damage over onto that dragon, and it missed. So as a result, they didn't have that, and unfortunately for them, Cloud9 now 7,000 plus gold in the lead, 22 minutes in. They have the Baron. They have the dragon advantage, and they are just ridiculously far ahead at this point in the game.
Yeah, it kind of is one of those things where the early game at some point felt close, now the game is absolutely not close, as Cloud9 just going to continue that snowball. Hex Flash over the wall for Vulcan, who's been on point today. Still gets a start on Newbie, forcing the ulti again. But a temporary solution to the problem as Cloud9 still siege down the mid-tier 2.
It's just a trade of ulti, so not too bad, but the problem is, as you say, what's happening to these structures. Perks is actually killing that bottom lane tier 2. They killed off that mid lane tier 2. The gold lead just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Actually looking like Perks is building towards Cosmic Drive, which I think is an incredibly strong item on this patch. Not one that I would say I expected to actually come out for an Azir, but with the flat move speed and ability haste on it, as long as you already have one item completed, you hit that 160 AP benchmark that you do need for it, and it becomes incredibly powerful. Really for any AP champion that would consider going into a Ghost or a Phase Rush, anything like that, I think this item is just nuts now.
Yeah, seems really good. So excited to see players hopefully pick up it more and more. Could just be, if it's good on Azir, it has to be good on just about every mage, I feel like. Because, like you said, Azir is like one of the lowest candidates I had. I had for that item there as Iconic zooming in. Does tag Blabber, but no follow-up. Did have a flash, but again, not wanting to overcommit. Blabber has the ulti and QSS, actually, so kind of the big deal there is Blabber not really a viable target to be locked down. And Golden Guardian's just going to have to play PvE for a bit. We're going to have a Blaze Olive, clear out the bottom wave, and see if they can hold on, because Dragon 3 is coming up in 25, and I don't think Golden Guardians are getting that one.
They're playing PvE, but they're a couple tiers behind as far as the loot goes. Unfortunately for them, they're wearing rags. Their opponents have armor made out of diamonds and lightning, and it's not looking like a fair fight. So we'll see what they can get done here, but I think at this point, you just give up the next dragon. You pray that Cloud9 makes a mistake trying to crack the base. You look for some sort of engage or turnaround fight on a potential dive that Cloud9 would be coming through for. That's probably your best bet, but it's really tough because when you're sitting back in the base and you're hoping for your opponent to make a mistake, they just start foaming both sides of the jungle. The gold lead expands. It gets harder and harder and harder to ever really find that moment where you can make something happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost at 10k. I feel like it's not even just that, like, it's, common loot versus Diamonds and Lightning. It's like they don't even have enough gold to like repair the stuff they've been using in battle. It's all like broken.
Sword.
Exactly. So it's tough going out there.
Yeah.
It is. But the Cloud9 continuing to look good, which is nice. Again, weren't sure how teams were really going to react to this patch. We are seeing some of the changes already, but I think we should probably expect things to be slower as the meta develops around the world and not kind of happen overnight. And still, I like that Cloud9's identity is kind of staying the same. Budgets on something safe. You know, Gragas and Karma, not exactly the same, but I think both have a similar level of supportiveness and safety to them that they want to add to comps that are playing more hyper carries, even though Kaiser isn't, you know, a super strong long-range carry, still super strong carry if you get her involved and protect her. So
yeah,
even with Azir and Hecarim and Karma, Cloud9 is still playing like the old Cloud9, and that's what the fans love to see.
Yeah, they're playing it very aggressive. I mean, this is a fast-paced game, you know, for the composition that they have drafted. By no means is Cloud9 sitting back and waiting for things to happen. They are pushing the lead. They are going for engages. They are testing their opponents at every turn, and that is something that you really do expect from a top team in the league, and Cloud9 is delivering in that account. You can see that Sven has also completed his QSS, so all of the people that you would really want to ult now as iconic have a QSS. It's so unlikely to be able to run past everyone and ult someone like Fudge. You could ult Vulcan, sure, but probably the only time you're in range of him is when he's engaging and has his ult down, so it's not the most ideal target. And it's just unfortunate because when you're down 10k, you know, the QSS, sure, you forced it out, but they have the QSS and they still have as many or more items than your carries do anyway on top.
You know, it's just luxury items, starting to pay for cosmetics at this point in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Just got all the shiniest stuff. As Niles maybe looking for an angle here onto Sven. But Vulcan continued to be just so good in this game, honestly. Really showcasing the power of Rel and her engage. As Niles is going to go in, but now Blabber going to counter-engage. The Blaze Olive in the middle of the team. Going golden there as Perks. Oh my god, that damage. As Blabber's just going to zoom in to finish off the kill. Now it's a 5v4. As Perks is going to try and finish off Sticks here with the help of Sven. And indeed, Sven's going to take him out. Newbie's going to crumble as Cloud9 pick up 3.
Yeah, they're getting it all, and you can see them TPing up towards that top side. That's where they have a minion wave, so they want to, at the very least, crack the inhibitor top side. Perk setting up the tower mid lane means they want to push here too, and they're getting Niles.
Oh, Niles caught out between the Sun Tower and 3 members of Cloud9. Perks with the last Sand Soldier. Now on a killing spree as he takes out the 4th member of Golden Guardians. We have 10 seconds or so for Iconic to complete the ace for Cloud9, but also there's a Nexus to contend with as Cloud9 are going to bash through the top inhib.
We'll see if they want to keep going. It looks like they're posturing to try to go for the end here. You can see Perk standing past the inhibitor. They want to close it out right now.
Yep, going to take out one tower. Iconic here with Newbie and a Blaze Olive to try and defend Stixley out as well. But again, Vulcan going to find a Magnet Storms 3 after the Attract Repel. And that's just going to be the Nexus there as Vulcan is going to die. But Cloud9 will take the victory. Yes, indeed, they will. It's Cloud9 looking like they haven't missed a beat.
Not at all. Crushing through here, moving to 8-2 now, maintaining that first place position and looking really happy about it. This was a dominant game. Vulcan really shining for Cloud9, you know, testing Newbie early, testing Newbie often, and he was just consistently finding these engages in the laning phase, and then you get to that mid-game stage, Blabber is there with him, pairing up to constantly move around the map. Felt like Vulcan was hardly ever in lane beyond them getting that first kill, and once they had it, he's like, all right, Sven, you're safe in bot lane. I'm going to go pressure mid lane. They attacked a Blaze Olive relentlessly. They start to get in Iconic's face, taking away the jungle camps, and this was just a really well-played game here from Cloud9, creating the advantage, extending the advantage, grabbing the early Baron, closing out the game with a super late game comp in sub 30 minutes.
Yep, looking really good for Cloud9 as we are heading to a quick break, but when we return, we have Blabber in the Verizon post-game interview. We'll see you there.
Hey, I didn't order any pizza.
Jake from State Farm. After you saved me so much dough on insurance with that Parker promo, I devised a promo for you.
Here's the deal, Parker. State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
Yeah, right. Pepperoni pockets, an atomic brownie, cuckoo crusty.
There's no promo, it's just great rates.
And a cider ranch. You're the man, man.
When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back to the LCS, everyone. We have our first Verizon post-game interview of the day, this time with C9 Blabber. Now, this was the first game that we got to see on patch 11.4. Jungle is obviously the talk of the town, so what are your thoughts on the changes?
I mean, the nerfs definitely hurt a bit for jungle, right? I can definitely feel that I'm getting less gold on like my clears. Honestly, the experience doesn't feel too bad, but I can still feel it. So yeah, jungle's weak.
Well, all of that being considered, though, we still saw you going in on the Hecarim. You were enabled by the Karma, for instance, played by Fudge. We also saw the Janna come up again on support on the other side. Do you feel that these kind of disengaged picks are going to rise in popularity and all affect the way that you have to play?
Not really. I mean, if you actually like, if you saw the game, Janna didn't disengage really anything. She kind of just got rolled over, and we just killed her and her team. Oh, I guess we didn't really kill her that much because she was playing for KDA as Janna, but I don't think they were really able to disengage or engage very well, and we kind of just ran them over.
Well, it always feels good to run them over in the game when it leads to the W in the end. And you say that jungle feels a bit weak, but you yourself like to be the strength of the team, the carry from the jungle position. How do you continually adapt? You're saying there's not that much of a change just yet, but it is something that you have to keep in mind as the center point of C9.
Yeah, I mean, I think carry junglers in general are going to be a bit weaker, starting from like this patch and maybe going forward. Maybe you'll see less carry junglers and more like supportive type junglers, like Skarner, for example, has come more into the meta, and I think it's probably just a transition that a lot of teams will have in the future. For me specifically, I'm happy to play in any meta, so I don't always have to be the carry for my team, right? I'm happy playing like Skarner as well and supporting my team.
Now let's talk about your team and the approach going into the spring split, because we are officially past the halfway point going into the second round robin. What have you all learned from the first round robin that you are looking to turn into improvement going into the second?
I mean, I think we definitely learned a lot of things. I think when we started off as a team, we were pretty not great, I guess, at playing on top side, which I think is something that we've gotten a lot better at. And now I think we're very strong at playing through top and through bot. I also think specifically me and Perks have been playing a lot better together than we have been when we first started playing. So I think our synergy is building pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I think we'll keep getting stronger as the second half starts.
And speaking of top side, you are going against EG next, and that is definitely a threat for them even when playing weak side champions. You did end up losing to them during the first time around, losing once in lock-in as well. What are you and the team doing to ensure that you don't go 0-2 against them this spring?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks that we haven't beat them a single time yet. I think we lost in lock-in and we lost during the split, so we're really ready to get our revenge against EG, I guess.
All right, well, we will await for that revenge to be taken, Blabber. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
We're going to keep on rolling here with the LCS going into game number 2 soon enough between TSM and Team Liquid. Stay tuned.
I don't really consider it gear. It's an extension of who I am. It blurs the line between fantasy and reality. Sometimes, I can't tell myself from my machine. I think that's by design.